Hi everybody. I just want to run through a couple of JavaScript examples from this week's lab, okay? So we're going to solve example 4, which will be the JavaScript quiz, and I'm going to solve example 5, which is the validation using JavaScript for a given form, okay? So the first one is example 4. So this is the one I'm going to solve in this video. So what we want to happen is that I want to create a simple JavaScript quiz. In that I want to have a predefined set of questions that I'm going to store in my JavaScript source, and I want to present the question to the user on the web page, and I want them to enter the answer to the question into an input box on our page, and I want them to be able to submit their answer, and I want to be able to tell them whether they're right or wrong, okay? So it's going to feel like it's offering a small piece of dynamic functionality to our page. So it's some basic DOM manipulation using getElementById, getting or setting some information or adding information to our page using .innerHTML, and using .value to retrieve the information that the user has typed into an input box, okay? So I'm following the lab, so I have the lab printed out here in front of me, and I'm just going to literally follow it. So I just want to show you how I'm solving it. So if you're going through the example and you've run into some problems, hopefully this video will explain exactly the exact process to follow to get this to work, okay? So if you go to web courses, there is a zip folder that I've added up there, and you can see it here. I have already downloaded it, and I've called it forms.zip. You need to go get that. This is the starting point, okay? So download it from web courses, and it's going to give us a folder that we have here called forms, okay? So this is what I'm going to use as a starting point. So if you come into it, you can see here there's a file called index.html, and inside my assets folder I have my CSS, which is site.css. There's some images there. They're part of the site, not too worried about it for the quiz. And I have my JavaScript file, which is site.js, okay? So first and foremost, I'm going to open index.html for editing. Okay, I'll open them with Sublime. Okay, so there's my form, or my HTML page, okay? So the basics of what I'm after is here's my site, and it's telling me that site content is here, so I'm going to start building my web page from here, okay? Fine. So firstly, I might just I'll open them up in Chrome. So this is my page. So inside here is where I want my quiz to happen. So I've added nothing to my application yet, okay? So let's start building up. So I'm on step 1. So it's saying create the basic HTML page for the quiz. So add the following markup to a HTML page. You can use the starter template. Okay, so that's absolutely fine. So I'm going to enter in the markup. So H1 okay, so the first thing I'm going to put a header on the page. I'm going to say it's John's Super Quiz. I'm going to put 3 buttons on the page. Button, and I'm going to call it Q1, question 1, and I close the button. So this is the simple quiz that I'm creating. It's just going to have 3 questions. So you can run your quiz any way you want, but get the basic one going first, okay? So I have question 1, question 2, and question 3. So the way it's going to work will be that when someone loads the page, when they click question 1, they'll see question 1. When they click question 2, they'll see question 2. And when they click question 3, they'll see question 3. And we'll ask them to type in their answer for a given question, click submit, and we'll tell them whether it's right or wrong, okay? So that's what I'm doing with my 3 buttons here, okay? Very simple. So I'm going to come down a bit. I am going to put another heading on the page, heading 2, and I'm going to say question. So this is basically saying QUST. This is the question. And after, so that's like my heading, and then inside heading 3, I will actually display the question, H3, and I'm going to say ID is equals to question. So I'm adding in an identifier. The ID attribute for h3 is question. This is going to allow me via JavaScript to uniquely identify this element on the page, and I'm going to be able to add text to this. So I'm going to display the question here. So currently, when you come back to the page and refresh, it's just saying question. There is no question. We are going to use our JavaScript to display the question right here. Fine. Okay, so we keep typing. So I could have cut and paste this, but I'm hoping that by typing it, you might see exactly what I've done. Okay, so it's kind of lengthening the video ever so slightly, but I'm hoping that we get the benefit of it. Okay, so next thing, I put my input on the page. Input, I-N-P-U-T, type is equals to text. So I just got to get them going first, so make sure, oh sugar, okay. The faster I type, the worse it gets. So input type equals to text. I'm going to say ID is equals to a unique identifier, and it's going to call it answer. So we will use this ID to uniquely identify this input field on the page and get the information from the box, i.e. whatever. I don't really need this, but we'll add them in, okay? Okay, absolutely fine. Now we will end up, okay, so we leave him sit there. So we'd save. So let's just, hold on now, making mistakes. So close my label. Okay, so we just finish off what's here. So h3, and I'm saying ID equals to correct. So we're going to use this h3 to tell the user whether they're correct or not. So that's where we'll display out the message of good guess or you're wrong. And then I'm going to have another button on the page, which is basically a submit button. So when someone enters in their guess, they need to be able to submit. So we save, back we go, and refresh the page, and that's what we have, and my submit button should submit, refresh, and that's what we have. Okay, so fine, that's the architecture of our page, so we're very happy with that. So step 2 is asking us to add JavaScript to the page. So if you've already downloaded the template, that's absolutely fine. Now you can see here that it hasn't actually included the JavaScript file, so we need to add it in, and we have to make sure that we're pointing in the right location for this. Okay, so this is the tricky bit. So we're looking into the assets folder, and there should be another one called JavaScript, and inside here there's a file called site.js. And if we're wondering what we're talking about for this, we're going into assets, JavaScript assets. Then we go into JavaScript, and then we find site.js. So it's assets /JavaScript/site.js, okay? Absolutely fine. So that's our script in. So step 3 is asking us to add in the questions and answers to the JavaScript file. So I'll do it from here. File. No, I'll come this way with it. Okay. So I'll just stick here. So right click, open with Sublime. Okay, so inside here I'm going to type in my JavaScript question. So I'm just going to just lay myself out a little better. So here's my JavaScript, and there's my page. Okay, so over here on the right I'm going to add in my JavaScript. So I'm not going to put the comments in. You should put your comments in, but I'm just going to skip this just to get it going. Okay, so for our question, create an array called questions. Square brackets for my array. So I've a blank array called questions. Var answers is equals to a blank array. Fine. So I have a questions array and an answers array. So the way we're going to store them is that if whatever's in position 0 of the questions array, as in who is the Flash, in position 0 of the answers array, I'm going to give the answer to that question, which will be Barry Allen. So they're matching up. So we have to be careful of our positions, okay? Fine. So now we populate the questions. So questions into position 0 is equals to who is the Flash. I may as well put the question in, I suppose. And the answer is into position 0 goes Barry Allen. Okay, I'm going to be lazy now. So if you're going to follow the lazy route, just be careful when you're cutting and pasting. Okay, 2, 3. That the indexes of our array match up. 1, 2, 2. What questions have we got? Where is Superman from? He better not be from there. So it's Krypton, K-R-Y-P-T-O-N. And what is the third question? Oh yeah, what is Bruce Banner's alter ego? And he is the Hulk. And that's fine. Okay, so there's our array of questions and answers, and we have to keep one variable, which is the current question. So we're going to use this in that once I know what question I'm dealing with, if I keep a variable for current question, I'll know that if it's question 1, then I can access the answer for question 1, okay? So you can see the way that if I was dealing with 0, then if someone asked me who is the Flash, well, if I go for current question, which is 0, and ask the answers array for this, it will tell me Barry Allen, okay? So we'll see this later on. So just put them in, and that's fine. So now we want to be able to display, so we moved on to step 4. We want to be able to display the question on the page. So now that we have the question stored in an array, we need to display the question on the page for the user to see. So if we save everything that we have here, so go back to save, we go back to here, we refresh. I've absolutely killed everything. Okay, so let's be careful what we've done. So we have site. Okay, so see, this is how easy things go wrong. See over here, I got excited with my JavaScript. And I didn't close or didn't finish off my declaration for my JavaScript. Okay, so save them. So script, source, assets, whatever, and close them up. Absolutely fine. And this is why I'm doing the video for this. It can be tricky with JavaScript. Okay. So nothing's still working. We've added in questions, nothing's working. We need to display this information out on the page, okay? So we're going to create a function for this. And this is the way we want it to work. I'm going to create a function that will write the question to the page. And when someone clicks one of my buttons, which could be question 1, question 2, or question 3, I expect the question to display on the page, okay? So I'm going to create a function that's going to manage this for me. And I'm going to call it function set question, and into this I'm going to pass in a numeric value, and it's going to be a question number, which will be 0, 1, or 2, depending on whether I want it to be question 1, question 2, or question 3. So I say function set question, and I'm passing in a variable called question number. So this variable will be used within the function itself, okay? So I mentioned that we create a variable here called current question. Depending on the question we're interested in, we need to remember it. So if this question number says that it's question 0, I want current question to remember this for me, okay? So I'm going to say current question is equals to question number. Okay, that's absolutely fine. So I save my friend. Now, this is the tricky bit. I want to be able to write the question out onto the page, and I can use JavaScript and the document object model to be able to perform this task for us, okay? So inside JavaScript, I go document, and then I want to be able to uniquely identify over here, see with I've highlighted them here, H3 with an ID of question. This is where I want my question to appear. So I need JavaScript to be able to find this element on the page. So I find it via get element by ID. And I specify the identifier that's associated with that element. And the identifier is question. And I say what I want to do is I want to be able to add some information to this element for display. So I access its inner HTML. So I'm basically saying set the content of this element to. And what do I want to set it to? Well, I want to get the question from the questions array and display it. So I write down questions. This is my questions array. And inside square brackets, the question that I'm interested in. Okay, so I'll just squeeze my friend over here. So which question are we interested in? Well, we're passing in the question number. So this is either going to be 0, 1, or 2. And I put my friend here, okay? So I save this guy, and that's absolutely great. So this guy is going to do all the work for us, but we need to have an event to set the question. So what is an event? An event is something that's going to happen on the page. So me clicking question 1, that's an event. Me clicking question 2, that's an event. Me clicking question 3, that's an event. So when the button is clicked, we want to do something. So button, the event is on click, and what we want to call via this is the set question function. On click, call my function, and I pass in a value. So for question 0, or for question 1, I pass in 0. That's basically who is Barry Allen, and the answer to that will be, or who is the Flash, and that's Barry Allen. So this 0 is referring to question 0 and answer 0. Brilliant. So I can be lazy a bit if we want. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. And then we set our friends to 0, 1, and 2. So be careful with the arrays in that we're starting at 0, not at 1. Okay. So just be careful. You can see different languages, whether it's C or Scratch or JavaScript, they all operate slightly different, but equally they operate quite similar as well, okay? Okay, so that has got us up, so we're just at the end of step 4. So I have added in my function for set question, and he's writing the question back out onto the page via document.getElementById question.innerHTML and setting it to the question itself, okay? That's great, we like that. And then when someone clicks a button, we're calling the function that's going to set the question, and that's going to make the question appear. So that's the event. Clicking the button calls the function. Calling the function, or executing the code block within the given function, that's writing the question to the page. So that's the sequence, okay? So make sure everyone's saved. We come back to our example. Okay, so hopefully if we click Q1, question 1 appears. Oh, it does. Excellent. So it's saying, who is the Flash? Question 2 is, where is Superman from? So you see a change. Click question 3 is, where is Bruce, or what is Bruce Banner's alter ego? So JavaScript is changing the content on the page. You can see the page isn't reloading, or we're not redirecting to different pages or anything clever. It's JavaScript manipulating the document object model allows us to change the content on the page. So it's very clever, okay? Cool. So there's the question. Now what I want to happen is if I click on who is the Flash, I need to be able to type in the correct answer. Type in the answer, click submit, and it should tell me whether I'm correct or not, but it doesn't seem to be doing anything. But it's not doing anything because we haven't actually solved the problem yet, okay? So we need to be able to get the answer from the user. So we have an input box here. I want to be able to get the information from this via JavaScript and compare the user's answer to the answer that's stored in the array, okay? So we need to be able to access the information from our input box, okay? So we come back to our JavaScript. So we're going to create a new function, and the function is, so I'm on step 5 now. The function is going to be called check answer, and I want to be able to check, I want to be able to get the information from the page. Okay, so we'll do this in a couple of steps. So let's go for it. So function check answer. So we're not passing any information in. So there's no variable. So this one had passed a variable in, which was set question. This one isn't, okay? So we're going to say var, and I'm going to call it temp answer. So create a new variable called temp answer, and this is going to be equals to. I am going to now ask JavaScript via the document object model to get the information from the input that's on my page over here, okay? So see over here, line 35, I want the information from this. So I go document. How do I pinpoint something? Via, so I can use get element by ID. Which unique identifier are we interested in? I'm interested in the one called ANSWER, which is answer. If I'm dealing with an input box, the way I get the information from it, so I uniquely pinpoint it on the page first via document.getElementById, specifying the identifier answer. To get the information out of it, it's .value. Okay? So now, hopefully, temp answer holds whatever the user's typed in. So let's test it. So we'll do a simple alert. And I'm going to alert TMPANSWER. Okay, cool. Now, just before we test this, this is an event that's going to happen. So when someone clicks submit, I want to check their answer. So on the button called submit, I need to go on click, and I'm going to say check answer. Save. Make sure you save your JavaScript. We come back to our page. I reload. So I want to see question 1, who is the flash, and that's who I think the flash is, and submit. And I get my little alert box saying that this page says John McCarthy. Okay, so whatever has been typed into the box, I've got. So you can see here, it's not the correct answer to the question, but it's the information that I want. So JavaScript now has the information that the user has typed into the input box. Fantastic. So now we just need to take this a step further. So we're going to go on to step 6. And I want to be able to check if the user's answer is correct or not. If it's correct, I want to tell the user that they're correct, and if they're wrong, I want to tell them they're wrong, okay? So I'm going to get rid of my alert. That's not what I'm after. So if I'm going to check if something, I need to make a decision. So I'm going to use an if statement. So it's if, curly bracket, so it's similar to your C syntax, else, and on it goes, okay? So what's the check? So we're saying if temp answer, which is the string that we've got, so see it there, line 22. If this is equals to the answer, which is stored in the array answers, in the array, and which answer are we interested in? Well, it's depending on the current question that we're dealing with. So this is why we kept the variable for current question. So if someone had clicked question 1, current question is 0. So the question was who was the flash, and this will be the position of it. So this is going to tell us whether we're right or wrong, okay? So inside here, I can tell someone whether they're right or whether they're wrong. So where do we want to display this out? So we have a heading H3 with an ID of correct on the page. If the answer is correct, I want to be able to display that out. So we're basically going to use JavaScript and the document object model. And be careful with the syntax of these, they are case sensitive, okay? Get element by ID, what did we call it? Correct. Dot inner HTML. I'm going to say is equals to what do we say? Correct. And if it's not, oh sugar, carrot, and this is where it all goes wrong, is that for syntax is out, nothing's going to work. Okay, so if what the user types in is the exact same as what's in the array, we display correct, else we'll display wrong. Okay, so it's an if else, it's either boolean true or false. So if temp answer, which is what the user has typed in, we've got it from the input box, is equals to the answer from our array. So if that evaluates as true, that means they're right, we say correct, and if it's not right, well, it's wrong. So we save that, that's perfect. We come back to our page, we reload, view question 1, who's the flash? And it's telling me correct. Let's change it. So Barry Jones, wrong. So you can see it's changed. Maybe we go to the next question. Where is Superman from? I think Superman might be from DIT. Oh, it's wrong. Okay. Strange. Is he from Krypton? That's correct. And then question 3, whatever, and then off we go. Okay. So you can see that we're getting some interactions with our page. Now obviously we could tidy these up depending on the user interactions, and that we could start hiding things or clearing it off once someone has answered a question or when someone has moved to a next question, etc. But it just gives a basic overview of how we can manipulate the document object model with JavaScript. So a lot of what we have here is very similar to how we're going to validate our forms. Okay, so guys, I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks.